Tonight, residents of Adokwal thrown into mourning as gunmen attacked the community in Bassa local government area of Plateau State, killing 8 people. Tribunal sacks Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State as Governor Omar Fintiri and his River State counterpart Siminalayi Fubara emerged victorious as courts dismissed petitions challenging their election. The role of faith and religion in national development re-echoes at the Platform 2023. Speakers also highlight the need to empower youths in Nigeria and across Africa to drive development on the continent.
On business news tonight, OPEC Secretary General Haytham Al-Ghais warns that lack of investment in the oil industry poses danger to global energy security and could cause surge in crude oil prices.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles head coach Jose Posero recalls Fulham midfielder Alexi Iwobi and needs forward Terem Murphy for this month's friendly matches against Saudi Arabia and Mozambique in Portugal.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, federal government representatives and the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress meet in Abuja to avert the planned strike by the labour unions.
And in international news from London, at least 10 people, including 3 children, have been killed after the roof of a church collapsed in northern Mexico.
We begin tonight with the Independence Day tragedy in Adokwal district of Bassa local government area in Plateau State, where no fewer than 8 persons were killed and 3 others injured in an attack by yet-to-be-identified assailants. The attack, said to have been unprovoked, was carried out at a market square in the community last night. A resident, Danjuma Avo, lost 2 of his children and 6 other relatives in the attack. One of the early callers to the community following the incident was a member representing Just North Bassa Federal Constituency, Musa Aga, who described the attack as inhuman and criminal.
As the nation marked its 63rd independence anniversary, it was a sad day for residents of Adokwal, a serene community located in Kwal district of Bassa local government area of Plateau State. The peace of the community was disrupted when unidentified assailants attacked the residents at the market within the village square.
In the afternoon, it was raining at that moment, so 2 men came in army uniform as if they packed for the rain to be over. So after the rain, they left, and later in the night, that was the time people, those armed men, they came and started spraying bullets on them. He was outside, so he ran for his dear life to hide. And that's what really happened. They attacked, they start spraying bullets to people periodically. And the venue there is like a market square, most especially Sundays and Tuesdays. They normally make sense there to end their livelihoods.
The federal lawmaker representing the Jos North Bassa federal constituency, Mr. Musa Aga, assures the people that the National Assembly will take the necessary steps to address insecurity in the country.
With this thing that I've seen, I think we'll not be tired of what we are known for. We'll continue to speak. As it is, the whole world will get to know about this thing that has happened. When I get back to Abuja, I think under matter of urgent public importance, I think I will raise this very issue so that the whole world should know that this is what is happening in Plateau State, Irugwe community to be specific.
The deceased, including 2 minors, have been buried at the village cemetery, while those injured are receiving treatment.
Well, staying with security matters, suspected bandits have killed 3 persons and left others injured at Soro community in Binjin local government area of Sokoto State. According to the police spokesperson of the State Command, the police, assisted by the military, repelled the attack. And out of frustration, the bandits are said to have set some houses on fire in which 3 residents lost their lives. Sources in the community said the marauders also abducted several others. Meanwhile, in southeast Ebonyi State, gunmen earlier today unleashed mayhem around Ezangbo Junction on Abakaliki-Enugu Expressway. Although no one was killed, the incident, which took place at about 8 a.m., left 2 commercial buses, 4 motorcycles and a shop within the Ezangbo market burned. An eyewitness explained that upon arrival, the armed men, whose mission is unclear, shot in the air, prompting people to scamper for safety. However, normalcy has since returned to the area following the intervention of army troops. And now to the courts. The Rivers State governorship election petition sitting in Abuja, that's the Federal Capital Territory, has dismissed the petition filed by the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Tonye Cole, the Labour Party, Mrs. Beatrice Etubo, Mr. Dumolulu Briggs of the Accord Party, and Mr. Innocent Eku of the Allied People's Movement, challenging the election of Governor Siminalayi Fubara of the People's Democratic Party. In 4 different rulings, the 3-member tribunal led by Justice Cletus Emifonye dismissed the petitions for lacking in merit and for failing to prove their allegations. Our correspondent, Dilia Moyeni, reports.
Take up strategic positions within the court premises ahead of the verdict of the Nasarawa State Governorship Election Tribunal. While some leaders of the All Progressives Congress and counsels to the parties in the case were in court, the judges chose to deliver the judgment virtually. The People's Democratic Party and its governorship candidate, Mr. David Ombugadu, had contended, amongst others, that his actual votes were unjustifiably reduced, while that of Governor Sule was increased to allegedly aid his victory, particularly at Gayam and Chiroma wards of Lafia local government area. Delivering the judgment, the chairman of the tribunal, Justice Ezekiel Ajayi, agreed with the petitioner and declared Mr. Ombugadu as a lawfully elected governor of Nasarawa State. While a member of the panel agreed with the lead judgment, another member of the panel, Justice Ibrahim Mashi, declared Governor Sule as the duly elected governor.
Based on the polling unit results, where elections held successfully, collated successfully, but were wrongly entered into the ward result from EC8B, taking a look at all the results from the polling unit, there is no doubt that Honorable Ombugadu won the election by the majority of lawful vote cast at the election and was declared by the tribunal.
When there is a dissenting judgment that is even far rooted in logic and law, there is definitely we are still under our bosses, Chief Olanipekun, Adelodo and co. So we have to go and sit down and discuss, then meet with the clients on the issue of appeal.
Nevertheless, Governor Sule is urging his supporters to remain calm as he hopes to reverse the verdict at the Court of Appeal.
There is no need for any protest. We still continue to believe in the judiciary, and that is the reason why we are going to the next level of the judiciary.
Security operatives also took over the premises of the Adamawa State High Court ahead of the governorship election petition tribunal judgment. The candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Umar Ado, is alleging corrupt practices and violence during the exercise. However, the tribunal led by Justice Theodora Oloho dismissed the petition, stating that it was lacking in merit, defective and incompetent.
This petition has not been proven at all, just like I said by the tribunal, and we thank their lordships for doing justice to this case. And PDP, as we have always said, owns Adamawa, and Adamawa is PDP.
There are many decisions that were made excellent. There are some that we still think we have to look at again. You understand? Particularly the ones that even the Court of Appeal had made decisions on, which were also decided today. Sometimes the law is not 1 + 1 = 2.
Reacting to the tribunal's judgment, the Deputy Governor wants the petitioners to join hands with the state government to develop the state.
The victory is every Adamawa citizen. Not just for me, my principal, or the party, but it's for all of us.
The petitioners have 14 days to file an appeal, which should be dispensed within the next 60 days.
Well, quite a number of tribunal sit-ins today, and what you just saw is the outcome of the Adamawa State Governorship Election Tribunal, which upheld the election of Governor Omar Fintiri, and that of Nasarawa State, which nullified the victory of Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Let's now bring you that of the Rivers State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, which upheld the election of Governor Siminalai Fubara. Take a listen.
As early as 9 a.m., all parties to the suit instituted by 4 aggrieved parties against the victory of Governor Sim Fubara of Rivers State were seated ahead of the verdict of the tribunal. Among those in court is the immediate past governor of Rivers State, Mr. Diezani, who is also the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. 2 hours later, the justices emerged from their chamber and commenced the delivery of the judgments. The tribunal dismissed the appeal filed by the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, the Labour Party and the Accord Party for lacking in merit. However, the petitioners believe there are issues that the tribunal did not address.
The fact that APC withdrew, the main case is that APC withdrew, and as a result of that, my own rights were infringed on. I don't agree with that. But again, I need to see the basis for which that judgment has been made. The law allows me to continue a case, but the judges in their wisdom have said that APC's withdrawal nullifies my case. That's a bit surprising, but let's wait and see.
The onus on the basis of the pleadings before the tribunal, the onus is on the petition, on the respondents, who said that the governor resigned. We said he didn't resign. They said he resigned and gave particulars that he resigned. Mentioned the date he resigned, and the date was accepted. Those pieces of evidence were not brought before the court. On the state of the pleadings, it is the man who asserts that somebody has resigned, but who didn't bring the evidence, that stands to lose, according to the Evidence Act.
The petitioner felt aggrieved by the conduct of the elections in Rivers State, and they proceeded to the tribunal to ventilate their grievances. And they put forward their cases, we put forward our case, but the tribunal was not impressed by the presentation of our own case.
Back in court, the tribunal also dismissed the petition filed by Innocent Eku of the Allied People's Movement for lacking the capacity to institute the petition in the first place, since he was not the one on the ballot for the election. The immediate past governor of Rivers State, Mr. Diezani, reacts to the judgment.
The tribunal has said it's unfortunate. We don't know what you are still doing here. When the party that sponsored you has said, look, we're not interested. Why are you still here? The party has left with this banner. So on what platform are you standing?
Despite the developments, all the petitioners have vowed to look at the judgment of the tribunal as they prepare to appeal the outcome. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, Governor Fubara reacts to the tribunal judgment, plus speakers at the Platform 2023 highlight the need to empower youths in Nigeria and Africa to drive development on the continent. Well, that's in a moment. Just stay with us. Well, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Residents of Adukwal thrown into mourning as gunmen attack the community in Basa local government area of Plateau State, killing 8 people. Tribunal sacks Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State as Governor Omar Fintiri and his Rivers counterpart Siminalayi Fubara emerged victorious in the petitions challenging their election. The role of faith and religion in national development re-echoes at the Platform 2023. Speakers also highlight the need to empower youth in Nigeria and Africa to drive development on the continent. And at least 10 people, including 3 children, killed when the roof of a church collapsed in northern Mexico. Well, let's bring you more on today's governorship election petition tribunal rulings. This time, it's a reaction from the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, who has hailed the judgment, noting that his victory confirms the trust that the people of the state bestowed on him through the ballot. Governor Fubara stated this at a brief service held at the Government House Chapel to thank God for the victory.
I want to thank every one of you for your support and to assure you, as I've always done, we will not disappoint you. With your support, I strongly believe that we will get there. I just want every one of you to be patient. Patient is the only thing that the man of God did not add when he was listing those things. Patience is one of the greatest virtues for success. So we will get there. So let me, on behalf of the government, say a big thank you to every one of you for your prayers, more especially when we started until this particular hour that the courts has affirmed our victory.
And now to the fight against corruption. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says that it has begun the process of extraditing as well as obtained an arrest warrant for a former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Diezani Alison Madueke. This comes amidst her arraignment at the Westminster's Court in London following bribery allegations. According to a statement from the agency's acting head of media and publicity, Mr. Dele Oyewale, although the case in the London court is different from EFCC's alleged money laundering case against her, the commission, he says, will ensure that she has her day in court. Back home, as the population of young people continues to grow in Africa, there is a need for their continuous training to prepare them for public office. That's according to the pastor of Covenant Nation, Pastor Poju Oyemade, who was addressing participants at the Platform Nigeria 2023 in Lagos. Pastor Oyemade, who is the convener of the platform, also noted that faith and religion play a critical role in the development of any nation, explaining that values that have built nations are rooted in religion.
The Covenant Place, Igomu, is filled to capacity as students, youths and participants across all strata are here for the 34th edition of the platform.
Who can stop the wind or control its breeze?
Convener of the event, which holds biannually, Pastor Poju Oyemade takes the stage, highlighting the critical role faith and religion play in nation building.
Nigeria is a religious country. You can't get away from it. And the only way you can really transform something is to start with the people from where they are. The values of society that actually bring about progress, the values of society that have built nations and even civilization itself are actually rooted in the faith towards God. Those values there. And it's those values we should look at. Values like integrity, values like honesty, rule of law. Even our democratic experience that we talk about today is an expression, it is actually an expression that was taken directly from Scripture. That God is the judge, how God rules, He is the king and the lawgiver.
He also points out the demographic of the young population, which continues to grow in the country and continent. insisting that young people should be consciously trained for public office.
We're going to start another boot camp that will be to train people, all right, who want to get interested in occupying public office in future. The conditions are you must be a Nigerian, all right? Number two, you must be under 30 years of age. The website will be opened on the 1st of November. We'll get best, we guarantee you this, of professionals, retired permanent secretaries, people who have worked in public service, who understand the protocol. All we want is 2 months, it's nothing permanent, 2 months exposure, all right, to public service, so that the younger generation can begin to get engaged.
Meanwhile, some government officials call for support from citizens, while also revealing government efforts and plans.
In Nigeria, 90% of our population by 2030 should be digitally literate, which means they don't have to become software engineer, but they have to be conversant and comfortable with technology, especially digital technology. That has significant impact on the complexity of our economy. The ability of these people to participate in meaningful jobs, but also consume meaningful products as well. It raises the complexity of the economy, so it's something we want to do.
We have to be committed to being part of the solution to Africa's problem and not be a part of the problem. What should you do? 3 things. Number 1, hold our leaders to account. It's easier to hold our leaders to account today, in my view, than it was maybe 20 years ago. All that you need to do is you need a hashtag. When they see numbers, they pay attention to it.
And then an array of facilitators from the continent also take turns to speak.
The future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and execute it. So the future is no longer about what you have in the ground or what Nigeria has as natural resources. It is about what our imagination can give to us as a people and our ability to implement that, to design it, and to bring it to fruition. And that is what is driving the rest of the world today. If UAE can move away from oil wealth, what are we doing as Nigeria?
In this moment and in this season, I think as a generation, we are called to truly understand what it's going to take, one and all, to work with each other, but to build with each other. This is, I think, the generational mission of the platform. I said this to my brother, Pastor Pojo, the last time, and I will say it now here publicly, that what has started as the platform Nigeria, in my mind, needs to be the platform Africa. It needs to bring together leaders in various spheres and various spaces who are at the frontier of what it's going to take to truly take our continent to next, whatever next might be, and have them in a single platform sharing ideas about what next looks like.
The theme of the program, tagged Africa, a rising continent, Nigeria's strategic role with speakers from diverse fields, is aimed at shaping the minds, promoting talent, and pushing progressive frontiers for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs.
Still ahead on the news at 10, we'll bring you more from the Platform 2023. Plus, OPEC Secretary General warns that lack of investment in the oil industry poses danger to global energy security. Well, that's on Business News. You'll join us again. And for more on the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Linda Akigwe is all geared up. It's good to see you again, Linda.
Hello, Kayode. Good to see you too. Now, with a few hours to the October 3rd deadline given by the organized labor unions for their planned nationwide strike, the federal government delegation is yet to reach an agreement that is acceptable to the unions. Representatives of the unions, led by the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the president of the Trade Union Congress, have submitted their reply to the offers made by the federal government delegation on Sunday night. The federal government delegation and the Labour leaders are locked up in a meeting now in a bid to reach resolutions acceptable to both parties. The Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, yesterday said that government was hopeful that the unions would call off their planned nationwide strike following talks with the unions and agreements reached with them. Meanwhile, more trouble looms in Nigeria's university system as the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities has threatened to take action over the withholding of 4 months' salaries of their members. The president of SANU, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, explains that the association cannot guarantee industrial harmony in the university system if the ongoing negotiations with the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress does not address the demand for the payment of the withheld salaries. Mr. Ibrahim was addressing journalists on the outcome of the association's Executive Council meeting held in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Away from industrial disputes, Nigeria must have a rethink about the presidential system of governance, which appears to be inimical to its growth and development. This is the position of the senior pastor and founder of the Household of God Church, Reverend Chris Okotie, during a special service to mark the country's Independence Day celebration. It says Nigeria needs to evolve a system which will engender national growth, unity, and more.
His life will save you.
Gaily dressed worshippers arrive at the Household of God Church in Lagos for a special Independence Day service. They come bearing songs of worship and praise to God for Nigeria on this 63rd National Day celebration. Leading the service is the senior pastor and founder, Reverend Chris Okotie.
Many of you have known Nigeria for maybe 20, 30, 40 years. But if you've known Nigeria for 63 years, it's another thing entirely. So we thank you.
The service takes into cognizance the country's cultural diversity. The man of God wants to see a progressive Nigeria, but has a message to share on the system of governance.
I've said it before and I want to reiterate it, that the presidential system of governance is inimical and subversive to the Nigerian cause. It has polarized the polity, it has balkanized the Nigerian society, it has fractured the whole confederacy of the Nigerian Brotherhood and elevated corruption to an institution of Byzantine complexity and should be jettisoned from the boat of national progress. That's my position on this, and we still have the time to do it. Those political optimists who are visualizing a light at the end of the tunnel do not understand that that light is a deceptive light. It's called an ignis fatuus. An ignis fatuus is a deceptive light that gives you a deceptive hope and gives a deceptive direction. And that is not what Nigeria needs now. We need that which is realistic. And so we must stop whatever we're doing and evolve a system that will augur well for national progress, unity, and all that Nigeria desires. But let me say congratulations, because God is still with us and He has not abandoned Nigeria.
Amid all the challenges facing the country, the members of the Household of God Church appear to hold fast to the message of hope and stay inspired to birth a greater Nigeria.
That's all from Abuja. Back to Kayode for the rest of the news.
Well, thank you, Linda. Let's now bring you more from the platform Nigeria, where lawyer and activist Professor Patrick Lumumba says that Africa, its people and leaders need to begin a process of re-educating itself against certain orientation which has not helped the continent. And while another guest at the event, Ghanaian preacher Dr. Mensa Otabil, is making a case for institutionalizing discipline across Africa. Our correspondent, Timothy Crown at Derugbe, reports.
Who can stop?
When the socio-political conversation event, the platform, started in 2007 by Pastor Pojo Yemade, it was meant to drive national development in Nigeria.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm not a speaker. I just came to introduce the program.
16 years after, the program, which has become more like a household name in Nigeria, is now stretching the conversation to issues regarding the African continent, with this year's theme on Africa Rising Continent, Nigeria's strategic role. This year, foremost Kenyan lawyer and activist, Professor Patrick Lumumba, joins the conversation.
Africa remains the only continent in the world that is still referred to as Francophone, Anglophone, Lusophone, and now we are beginning to even call it Russophone and Sinophone and Indophone. There is a sense in which we must never forget this, so that when we are judging Africa, we ought to judge her on the basis and upon the realization that the headwinds that stand on our path are numerous, and that there is no shortage of fifth columnists within our ranks.
The erudite speaker considers Nigeria as cardinal to the continent's progress.
Africa has always been a battleground, and the rhetoric that we see and the manner in which we ourselves are educated. My sister talked about education. But really, what are we teaching ourselves? It is fella Nicola Pokuti said, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." And I'm suggesting to us that most of us, including most of us who are here, we are so very thoroughly miseducated that what we must do is to unlearn the burden that we have in our mind. Those of us who are lawyers, when do we feel happiest? When we cite an English authority to determine a land case in Abeokuta.
He's not alone in this call for a reawakening for a continental development. Founding pastor of the International Central Gospel Church, Ghana, Dr. Mensa Otabil, is asking for stringent respect and adherence to law and order.
The missing ingredient is that we are not able to enforce the laws of our nations. We're not able to bring people to respect the laws of the land. And it starts in very basic ways. Started in Singapore, it started in Dubai, it started in all the Asian countries. Just check every country. The first primal mover for social transformation is sanitation.
While it winds down here, the conversation continues across the continent with the target that Africa takes its destiny in its own hands. Timothy Crown, Aderibibe, Channels Television News.
Well, business news is next on the news at 10 with Anne Owaodo.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with the oil and gas industry. Lack of investment in the oil industry poses danger to the global energy security, and it could send crude prices higher. Well, that's according to the head of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Haitham Al-Ghais. In an interview with journalists at an energy conference in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, the OPEC Secretary General said that underinvestment in the world's oil market could also cause increase in the market's volatility as demand continues to grow. His comments are coming just 1 week after the International Energy Agency predicted that global demand for oil, natural gas and coal could peak by the year 2030. However, the OPEC chief mentioned that the total investment of at least $12 trillion is needed in the global oil industry between now and the year 2045 to prevent a surge in energy prices. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, says it has commenced payment of 16.18 billion naira liquidation dividend to depositors and other stakeholders in 20 banks in liquidation. In a statement released today, the NDIC says the move, which follows impressive recoveries from debtors and realization of assets of banks, is sequel to earlier payment of various sums, which amount to 45.45 billion naira as liquidation dividends and banks as of July 2023. The corporation also says the relevant stakeholders can visit any of its offices closer or go to their claim page on its website www.ndic.gov.ng. The federal government says that it has set a plan to help Nigerian startups raise their total yearly funding rounds to $5 billion by the year 2027. The Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Diezani, made this known today in a document titled Accelerating Our Collective Prosperity Through Technical Efficiency, a strategic plan for the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Mr. Diezani also says the country is hoping to increase the domiciliation of local technology startups from 1% to 25% by the year 2027, increasing their benefits to the economy. A recent report by an African funding data insight firm, Africa, the Big Deal, Nigerian startups raised $1.2 billion last year despite scarce funding. Let's talk some company news now. Listed industrial giant Boa Cement says that it has reduced the factory price for one bag of its cement from 5,500 naira to 3,500 naira by the end of the year. In a statement made on its website, the cement giant explains that the move is part of its effort to spur development in Nigeria's building materials and infrastructure sectors. The company further says that all pending undelivered orders, which had been paid for at the old price, will be reviewed downwards to 3,500 naira per bag, in line with the new pricing from October the 2nd, and will monitor field sales to ensure compliance. The Nigerian government has announced the waiver of value-added tax on diesel for the next 6 months to address the impact of petroleum subsidy removal in the country. Well, according to the Information Minister, Mohammed Idris, the waiver is part of the resolution reached during a meeting between the labor unions and the federal government delegation. He also added that the proposal to implement CNG usage by the federal government and other stakeholders is very crucial to the ongoing efforts to enhance the affordability of mass transportation, especially following the removal of fuel subsidy. Well, the federal government has also issued its first wholesale gas supply license for 500 million standard cubic feet of gas per day to an indigenous firm, all to deepen gas utilization across the country. The chief executive of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, while presenting the license to Huru Trading Limited, stated that Section 142 of the Petroleum Industry Act provided for the issuance of the license, which was required to guide commercial activities along the gas value chain. Mr. Ahmed also adds the milestone move will reinforce government's commitment towards attracting foreign direct investment and other forms of capital inflow into the economy. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Kayode.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thank you, Anne. Mexican authorities, I should say at least 10 people, including 3 children, have died after the roof of a church collapsed on Sunday afternoon. 60 people were reported injured, 2 of them seriously, while rescue services are trying to get to the dozens of people who are trapped underneath the rubble. The church was in Ciudad Madero, northern Mexico. It is not clear what may have caused the collapse, but the mayor says it was probably due to structural failures. Here's Simon Pusey with more of this and other international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. At least 10 people, including 3 children, have been killed after the roof of a church collapsed in northern Mexico. Here, the moment the collapse happened, caught on CCTV. Around 100 people were attending a baptism at Santa Cruz Church in Ciudad Madero. 60 people were injured, at least 2 of them seriously, and dozens were trapped underneath the rubble. Local residents rushed to the building with shovels and pickaxes to try to free those trapped. Search and rescue teams have since arrived at the scene, and 2 cranes are on site to remove the debris. Russia has been warned not to count on weariness in Europe over support for Ukraine as European Union foreign ministers meet in Kyiv. It is the first time the assembly has been held outside the bloc. Ukraine is not an EU member but does want to join. The meeting comes a day after further military funding for Ukraine was left out of a last-minute US budget deal. EU policy chief Josep Borrell has described the ongoing war in Ukraine as an existential crisis. The EU has already announced more than 70 billion euros of military aid and civilian assistance for Ukraine, which is set to arrive over the next few years.
It shows that our support to Ukraine not only continues, but increases, or at least by the time being the proposition on the table shows that we want to continue in increasing it. And I hope member states will decide it together with the financial perspective before the end of the year.
Egypt's health ministry says 38 people have been injured in a huge fire at a complex in Ismailia. 24 people have been treated in hospital for smoke inhalation, along with 2 for burns. The Interior Minister has ordered an investigation into the fire, along with a structural safety report of the facility. There have been no reports of any casualties or if any detainees were there when the fire began. 50 ambulances were sent to the headquarters of the Directorate of Security, along with 2 military aircraft. 12 of the injured were not taken to hospital and were treated at the scene. Work has started on turning the house in Austria, where Adolf Hitler was born in 1889, into a police station, a project meant to make it unattractive as a site of pilgrimage for people who glorify the Nazi dictator. The decision on the future of the building in Braunau am Inn, a town on Austria's border with Germany, was made in late 2019. Plans call for a police station, the district police headquarters, and a security academy branch where police officers will get human rights training. Earlier, workers put up fencing and started taking measurements for the construction work. The police are expected to occupy the premises in early 2026. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine has been awarded to a pair of scientists who developed the technology that led to the mRNA COVID vaccines. Professors Katalin Kariko and Drew Weissman will share the prize. The technology was experimental before the pandemic, but has now been given to millions of people around the world to protect them against serious COVID-19. The same mRNA technology is now being researched for other diseases, including cancer. The Nobel Prize Committee said the laureates contributed to the unprecedented rate of vaccine development during one of the greatest threats to human health in modern times.
Over almost 20 years ago, when they were investigating how the cells recognize different kinds of RNA, that basic discovery turned out to be extremely useful much, much later. And this is exactly how science works. And we think that, you can't have a better example of how something became useful for the whole world and for humanity.
Indonesia has inaugurated its first high-speed railway, a $7.3 billion project backed by China under its Belt and Road Initiative. President Joko Widodo launched the service, which connects the capital Jakarta to Bandung, a top economic hub. The railway is named WUSH, a Bahasa Indonesia acronym that translates to time-saving and reliable. Mr. Widodo has prioritized projects like WUSH to ease the country's severe traffic jams. The railway was originally scheduled to open in 2019, but was delayed due to land disputes, the COVID-19 pandemic, and a $1.2 billion overrun. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and happy holidays to all Nigerians from our sports center. Let's begin with the third edition of the Nigeria National Chess Championship holding in Lagos, where this year's edition was extended from 10 to 12 professional players to the national title in a round-robin format. The Federation also inducted international masters and former national champions, including retired Vice Admiral Jibrila Anyinla, Sylvanus Bigwe, Etoko Ime, and Fumilayo Augusta to its Hall of Fame for the championship that will be concluded on October the 9th. At the football, where the Super Eagles of Nigeria head coach Jose Posero have recalled Alex Iwobi and Terry Murphy for the friendly matches against Saudi Arabia and Mozambique in Portugal, Kenneth Omeruwa and Bright Osai Samuel will also return to international duty for the matches on October the 13th and the 16th in Baltimore, and the players are all expected to arrive in Portugal on October the 10th to prepare them ahead of the 2026 World Cup qualifying campaigns in November. Meanwhile, Napoli captain Giovanni Di Lorenzo has maintained that Super Eagles forward Victor Osimhen remains committed to their cause despite the social media controversy surrounding him and the club. And that's coming after Osimhen's agent threatened legal action over a mocking TikTok video posted and then deleted by Napoli. And the Italian champions admitted that they never intended to offend the player after he declared his love for the club. In the meantime, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag says Anthony could return in the Champions League tie at home to Galatasaray on Tuesday amid ongoing police inquiries into allegations of abuse against the Brazil forward. Anthony, who strongly denied the allegation, was given a leave of absence by Manchester United on September the 10th.
Anthony will be in consideration. But yesterday was his first time back in team training. We have a final training, and then we make the decision. But he will be in consideration. Yeah. So he cooperates fully, and it came out he is not charged. We have to make adjustments as well. When you don't have a fullback on the left side, and you have to change, and we did. There were shortages in our game. Definitely, but I think also there were very positive points in. But by the end of the day, it's only about result.
And that's it on Sports News. I'm Jeffrey Uzama-Kayode. Is back to you.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. And the main news again. Residents of Adokwal community in Bassa local government area of Plateau State were thrown into mourning today as gunmen attacked the village, killing 8 people in the process. The Governorship Election Petition Tribunal in Nasarawa State today sacked Governor Abdullahi Sule, just as Governor Maruf Interior of Adamawa State and his Rivers counterpart, Siminalayi Fubara, emerged victorious at the court, which dismissed the petitions challenging their elections. The role of faith and religion in national development took center stage at the Platform Nigeria 2023, where speakers also emphasized the need to empower youth in Nigeria and Africa to drive development on the continent. And at least 10 people, including children, were killed when the roof of a church collapsed in northern Mexico. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Good night.